All right, the biggest story that we are tracking for you today comes in from the Parliament, where a massive row has erupted after leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi slammed the BJP, attempting to read out excerpts of an unreleased book from former Army Chief General Naravane at the Lok Sabha. As soon as Rahul started his speech, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh stood up, stopping his readout of a piece of document that still remains unpublished. Home Minister Amit Shah followed suit, along with Union Minister of Parliamentary Affairs Kiren Rijiju, who went on to demand an apology from Rahul Gandhi. The BJP also released a video of the former army chief himself stating that not an inch of land was lost in Doklam. Now, let me in fact introduce the panelists who are joining us on the broadcast to discuss this further. Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal, former diplomat; Major General Sudhakarji, senior geopolitical and strategic defence expert; Jasmine Sandhawalia, spokesperson of the BJP; Pooja Tripathi, Congress spokesperson. Now, in fact, since this is a political debate, let me first go across to the Congress spokesperson, Pooja Tripathi, on this. Ma'am, we are seeing a massive ruckus in the Parliament because the leader of the opposition wants to quote excerpts from an unpublished book. Magazines are also not supposed to be quoted in the Parliament on the floor of the House as per the rules. So why is the leader of the Parliament insisting to discuss this topic?
Shivani, good evening to everyone. Shivani, look at why this book is unpublished, why this book is still to be published when advance orders were taken in December 2023 is a point that we all should be worried about. An ex-army chief's book, General Naravane's book has not been allowed to publish after taking pre-orders, and it was redacted because Ministry of Defence had an objection to it, is something that we need to worry about. And Rahul Gandhi was not putting something out of a thin air. Rahul Gandhi wanted to bring forth a statement by Major General Naravane, which he wrote in his book on what happened in 2020 at 8:30 p.m. and it was there. It's published in the Caravan magazine, and that's what. And the way the whole treasury bench, the way the whole senior most leaders, jumped and attacked and never allowed a second of a discussion, goes on to show that who is actually afraid to get these out facts in the public. 2023, we are sitting in 2026, 3 years have passed down. General Naravane's book, and he's not just a common man, he's an ex-army chief, and his book is not being published. And the fact that he lists out the fact, who better than army officer to bring out the facts that what happened in 2020, where he lists that on 8:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. when 3 Chinese tanks were moving along the border with their infantry troops, he made frantic calls to Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Ajit Dawal, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar ji for his orders, because
Mr. Tripathi, ma'am, the whole reason why the book is not being published is because there is questions about its authenticity. You mentioned yourself that the Ministry of Defence, had some reason why they did not give it clearance, right? So that has to be authenticated, right?
Let me tell you, the whole hoopla, the whole PR, the whole propaganda that Prime Minister Modi ji did, saying कि ना कोई हमारी border में घुसा है, ना किसी को घुसने दिया गया, stand exposed when these facts of General Naravane's book come out. And as I said earlier, he is not a common man, he is not an ABC person. He is an army chief, and he is pertinent enough to bring out the facts. And that's what Rahul Gandhi wanted to bring. And why did he want it to bring? You allow a Tejasvi Surya to make a passing comment on Congress, and that's why he was answering it. But the speaker didn't interject Tejasvi Surya when he made a passing and a derogatory comment on Congress. But you are objecting, you are in a hammer and tongs against LOP for not reading out those 4 lines from the book excerpt, which the Defence Ministry is sitting on since 3 years. And this goes on to show that the whole China angle, and why, and Prime Minister, this was a vote of thanks for motion of thanks for Prime Minister's address, and that's what I'm saying. Prime Minister actually talked about the geopolitical situation. President of India actually talked about the geopolitical situation, actually talked about the Operation Sindoor, and that's what it was. It was important. Operation Sindoor, the topmost army officers have gone on record and saying that China was not only supplying the arms and ammunition to Pakistan, it was giving a real-time warfare information. China, with which we have 116 billion.
Okay, let me in fact rope in Jasmine ma'am on this. Jasmine Sandhawalia, how are you looking at this situation? Because the Congress keeps saying that this is an issue of national security. However, we have a video that in fact the BJP also posted on its social media handle that clearly has the former army chief saying that we were where we were earlier. We have not lost any kind of land. That's his statement. We are not quoting somebody else. And this book that the leader of the opposition wants to quote seems to be unauthenticated. That is why it is unpublished.
Shivani, I want to begin first of all that we cannot be morphoic about it, that the border issue of China and India is a live and a sensitive issue. And we've gone to war. We had a major war soon after partition. And for a leader of the opposition, unfortunately, Rahul Gandhi, with due respect, does not understand and comprehend that there's a thing called responsible opposition. And on the matters of national security, it is a live issue. The army chief has gone on record to say that we did not lose an inch. And is this a drama which is being orchestrated by the Congress party? For heaven's sake, lose words in Parliament by a responsible, he should be responsible. What has happened to him intellectually? Lose words in Delhi in Parliament can become headlines in Beijing and China. We are talking about a nation which is close to us. We've had a war with it before. We have a history. We cannot be discussing a general's memo which has not been published. And he is wrangling that in the Parliament. What kind of irresponsible, unethical approach the opposition and the Congress party is following? It's a shame. They're intellectually and ethically done with. That's what I want to say.
Right. In fact, let's listen in to what Rahul Gandhi actually said inside the Parliament and what the army chief's statement has been, which the BJP has released. Let's listen into those statements, please.
Sir, Chinese forces were approaching Kailash Ridge. 4 tanks. The tanks were within a few hundred meters of Indian positions on the Kailash range.
Firstly, we have not lost out in any territory. We are where we were before this whole thing started, to be the larger viewpoint that we take.
And not an inch has been lost.
Not an inch.
Okay, so we've heard the political side to the story, but the crux of the matter remains to be China, remains to be national security. That's what the leader of the opposition is saying. Let's rope in Ambassador Suresh Goyal on this. Ambassador, how are you looking at this entire situation that is unfolding in the Parliament currently? The leader of the opposition seems to insist that he needs to discuss a matter of national security that details the conversation between a former army chief, between the defense minister, between the prime minister. Do you think that this is a way forward, or parliamentary procedures are there? He needs to submit, get the approval for the discussion. What are you making of this situation, Ambassador?
Shivani, it's a very difficult question that you have put to me. There are two sides to it. First of all, there is a question of national security, a situation in Ladakh, a situation where I don't want to talk about the details here because they've been discussed. There is an area which is actually the kind of no man's land between India and China in that area, 20 kilometers or so something, where it was expected that this is a no man's land because this is the disputed area. There is no clear demarcation or boundary between the two. The claims and counterclaims exist, and except the patrolling rights on given times for which the other side is pre-informed, there is supposed to be no construction of any permanent nature in that area. This is in Ladakh. near Galwan Valley, and which is where you first actually, the Indian troops first noticed that the constructions had been done by Chinese of a permanent nature, and the presence of Chinese troops on a kind of a permanent basis in that area. That was a violation of understanding of the agreements on the memorandum reached between India and China earlier. So therefore, there was a violation, number one. Number two, when the Indian troops, it is also understood that when the patrolling takes place in that area, the patrolling will take place at different times, so that the Indian and the Chinese troops do not come in confrontation with each other. Now, situation has arisen there. The Chinese troops were there. Technically, that's a land disputed by India and China both, so part of Indian territory, as we claim, and there was a violation. I will not say, go to the extent of saying the Chinese occupied any part of the Indian territory. Now, why did the dispute arise if there was no occupation or there was no violation of the agreement? Navarane in his book has said a few things, published, it has been referred in the newspapers. Whether the book is published or not is a material. It has been reported in the newspapers, and therefore the quotation is from the published sources. Number three, that is as far as the actual situation is concerned, and I'm very wary of saying giving full details on a TV discussion like this, because everything can be misinterpreted, misunderstood, and misreported. Therefore, I do not want to talk about the security situation at this forum. Coming to the parliamentary procedures, while there are people who are better judge of what the parliament processes would be, but having dealt with the parliament on the particular issues and other issues from time to time, I do know that, and that is from 1982 onwards, when I was dealing with China from the Ministry of External Affairs, and there used to be calling attention notices, there used to be parliamentary questions for discussion, call for the discussions on all kinds of issues. I do remember that at all times, when the notices were issued, unless on some very strong grounds, the government of India, at the recommendation of the concerned minister and the Prime Minister, said that we should not answer this question in the Parliament on security ground. The questions were answered. Parliament has had a healthy tendency of discussing issues. And if there were issues where a kind of open discussion was not considered proper, it was discussed in the concerned committee. But a discussion was never, ever, in my memory, said no to. Discussions took place and they were allowed. Therefore, I will answer your question in two parts. As far as the security situation is concerned, or the intrusion into the Indian territory is concerned, I would be hesitant to say that there was no intrusion, because after all, if there was no intrusion, why did the Indian security agencies respond at all? There had to have been an intrusion, there had to have been a violation of the right. As far as the parliamentary discussions are concerned, I think within some constraints and with some notice, discussions have taken place before, unless it does basically tend to go into security issues which could jeopardize India's security concern. But I think that can be explained easily by the parliamentary secretary to the Lok Sabha secretary to the concerned member, and it is given in writing that as to why discussion of this cannot be allowed. That's all I would say for the time being, Shivani.
Right. In fact, what you're saying is, we had, in fact, the Speaker of the House also saying that if Mr. Rahul Gandhi wants to discuss the matter of national security, he has to follow proper procedure. Nobody is telling him that this will not be discussed. In fact, the government is ready to discuss, but he should follow proper procedure. If I can rope in Major General Sudhakar ji on this. General, we have a record of the former army chief coming on record. He's saying that we are where we were. So he's clearly debunking Mr. Rahul Gandhi's claims that we have lost territory to China. But if we are using, these unpublished works as, fodder for parliamentary debates, isn't this dragging the army into politics for no reason, with no backing?
Good evening, Shivani. Thank you for inviting me for your show, and my greetings to all the very distinguished panelists. The issue per se does not deserve to be discussed in an open media like your channel or any channel for that matter, because of its sensitivity. We have been able to resolve the issue to large an extent. That doesn't mean it points towards endorsement of what is being alleged to have been covered. I'm saying nobody is correct. Nobody is correct because people haven't understood the real technicality and the issues on the ground. I have commanded a division in the same sector. I know for sure what is being spoken about, and I also know that very few people in India have understood the real problem. The real problem is that I tend to agree with what Ambassador said, that the border between India and China, that 3,488 kilometers, barring for far and few stretches of which are declared and accepted mutually by both the stakeholders as international border, are disputed. So when it is disputed, what does it mean? It means, take your mind back to the letter which was signed by Chow Lai on 7th November 1959, in which he had proposed to Government of India that the border should be settled on the lines of line of actual control. Now, what is line of actual control? The line of actual control has to be understood as per the perception of Chow Lai at that point in time, that the line up to which Chinese troops are holding ground, that would be, and the line up to which the Indian troops, depending on the line up to which we are holding each other's border, 20 kilometers from towards a respective side, we are to pull back. And that perceived line, as per Chow Lai, was to be called as line of actual control. So if that was the line of actual control, why did Jawaharlal Nehru, then the Prime Minister, why did he decline not once, twice, thrice? He had offered. He came to us with a land swapping offer that the Arunachal Pradesh be taken by us and claimed and held by us, and the Aksai Chin area should be taken by. That was the offer. So it was rejected then and there, but I'll fast forward the issue to 1993. In 1993, there was a border peace and Tranquility Agreement signed, BPTA, in 1993. None other than late Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. He signed the agreement protocol, and in that protocol, the line of actual control had been accepted as the deemed line based on which we would continue to maintain peace and tranquility along the border. So when you talk about a line of actual control, what does it mean? That it means there is a perceived line. So a perceived line by China may not be the perceived line by India. That means there is a clear demarcation. Demarcation has got two parts. One is delimitation. Often it is used as delineation on the map. The second is called as demarcation on the ground. Neither of the two had been completely done. So therefore, the border continued to remain undemarcated even till date. There have been exchange of map, limited exchange of map, there have been talks, and there have been also more than 5 protocols signed between 1993 to 2013, 1993, 1996. You had 2002, 2005, 12 and 13. Each of them, the central point was confidence building measure. But 2005 was a turning point which to large an extent, we had actually progressed significantly and going in technically and also legally, going in for resolving the border issue. So what am I trying to say? I am trying to say when the statement is made that China has not encroached or come into our territory, it is based on a particular reference. That reference also does not have any sanctity. So an absence of a border, demarcated and mutually accepted border on an internationally defined thing called as international border, accepted mutually by both the stakeholders, you actually cannot say whether China had actually crossed the line towards our side or we had gone across that line towards that side. This is to be understood. Nobody has understood, nor will anybody understand until they go on the ground, because things are very, very different and difficult on the ground itself. I have gone on ground, hence I am explaining. Last but not the least is that it is best laid to rest. No discussion to be allowed, neither in Parliament nor anywhere. It is a very, very extremely sensitive issue. I would urge, like the earlier speaker, ma'am, I think she made a very good statement that what we discuss here in the Parliament, it goes to Beijing. I said more dangerous than going to Beijing is that everything discussed in the Parliament is visible on a smartphone. The Jawan on the ground is seeing it. There is nothing more detrimental than a Jawan getting to know that the ground which he is protecting.
Absolutely, absolutely. General, I think you have rightly mentioned that this is a matter of geopolitical importance. This is a matter of, strategic secrecy. This is not something that should be raised on the floor of the Parliament without prior intimation. Like the ambassador also, in fact, mentioned that you can have committees to discuss this further. Last word from Pooja Tripathi and Jasmine Sandhawalia on this. Ms. Tripathi ma'am, why is this discussion being held right now by the leader of the opposition? There is a proper procedure, he can follow that. Right now, if he wants, he can, just address the motion of thanks.
Shivani, let me take you back to 1962. I'll be really quick. A young parliamentarian.
Ma'am, I really have 30 seconds each for the
I'll
both.
All the time.
I'll just sum it up in 30 seconds if you don't interrupt me. A young MP Atal Bihari Vajpayee called a session of parliament asking Jawaharlal Nehru what is the border situation at this, and army leadership, external affairs minister, both of them advised Jawaharlal Nehru not to discuss it in parliament, but Jawaharlal Nehru said they are as much as an Indian. Every member of parliament is responsible to Indian as we are, and they need to know the truth. There was no white paper, there was no prime minister address, na koi gussa, na koi ghusne de diya. 20 and 20 people got martyred at the Galwan clash, and prime ministers nobody.
Okay. Last word to Jasmine.
I just want to say to Rahul Gandhi that when soldiers are standing at the border, political leaders should show ethical maturity, and he needs to be responsible and stand with the nation and not with some unpublished manuscript. That's all I would say.
Right. All right. Thank you so much to all the guests who joined us on the broadcast, Ambassador Goyal, General Sudhakarji, Jasmine Sandhawalia and Pooja Tripathi, for joining us on the broadcast. In fact, the ruckus in the Parliament's lower house was a major face-off, with Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh questioning Rahul Gandhi on the credibility of the book. Let's in fact listen into those statements.
जो ये मेंबर पार्लियामेंट थे, ये हमारे चरित्र पे बोल रहे थे, हमारे पॉलिसीज पे नहीं बोल रहे थे। ये कह रहे थे कि हम एंटी नेशनल हैं।
मैगजीन की रिपोर्ट है, नरवणे जी ने नहीं कहा, इतना बोल दे। रिकॉर्ड पर बोले कि नरवणे ने नहीं कहा है। रक्षा मंत्री जी इतना ही कह रहे हैं कि नरवणे जी की पुस्तक को आप रिफर कर रहे हो, तो वो प्रकाशित हुई या नहीं हुई, वो स्पष्टता करें। नरवणे की रिपोर्ट नहीं है, नरवणे का पुस्तक नहीं है, इतना स्पष्टता करे। मैगजीन तो कुछ भी लिख सकता है।
कोई ऑथेंटिक सोर्स तो चाहिए, कोई ऑथेंटिक सोर्स तो चाहिए। और जिस किताब का उल्लेख वह कर रहे हैं, वह किताब आज तक प्रकाशित ही नहीं हुई है। ये उल्लेख कहाँ से कर रहे हैं, मैं ये
All right, with that, we are wrapping up this bulletin and slipping into a short commercial.